One of the advantages of not being able to stand still, I get a lectern to lean on. Good afternoon. Today I made the choice to get onto the stage safely rather than come on by myself and take out the TEDx sign or fall off the edge. I think it was a good choice. We all make choices every day, and I'd like you to listen to my experience and the choices that I've made. Sorry, the choices that I've made. What is it? I had this down. This is what Mr. P does. He takes your brain and he scrambles it up and throws it out the back. It's okay, I'll cut this bit out of the video. Okay, imagine if you will, you're living a comfortable life. You've got a job you love, you've got great friends, great family, and household chores take a normal amount of time to do. You're just cruising along. You're a teacher who loves her kids, you've got 2 beautiful children and 3 beautiful grandchildren. You just don't think your life's ever going to change. You're invincible. But then all of a sudden, your body starts doing strange things to you. Your brain starts scrambling. Things like when you try and brushing your teeth, you can't do a repetitive hand movement. So you hold your brush and move your head up and down. And you should see me trying to put makeup on, not a pretty sight. Your toes try to curl and kiss your heel. Your insides are shaking madly, but the outside's very still. You're feeling like a walking heater. You've got virtually no clothes on, and everyone else around you's under a doona. When you walk, your hand comes up like this, and your arm comes up like this, and your hand hangs like an Italian sausage at the deli. And you walk like this, you shuffle, and your kids call you Mr. Burns. And then the panic attacks start and become a normal occurrence every day. So you decide maybe something is wrong, and you stop procrastinating and make an appointment to see the doctor. Then come the tests upon tests, CAT scans, MRIs, blood tests, cognitive tests, any sort of test. And you're just going crazy with tests. And then 2 years have passed and you're still needing tests. Your symptoms are not going away and you're accused of being, it's all in your head. Get over it. That was me 13 years ago. But by luck, I decided to go to a different doctor and he recognised my symptoms straight away. He sent me straight to a neurologist. Now, the neurologist moved my wrists, moved my elbows, swung my arms around, and told me to do 3 simple things. This, and tap my foot. No trouble at all with my left side, right side, not a hope. He sat me down and told me he thought I had Parkinson's disease. He was 99% sure. The only way to be 100% sure is to cut into your brain, and you have to be dead for that. And dying just to prove a point was not on my agenda. So I struggled to take in what he was saying. And it also makes you very dry in the mouth, so I apologise. You're either choking on your saliva or you haven't got any. He sat me down and told me that, and I couldn't take it in. All I thought of was, can I still go to Norway and see my daughter at Christmas time? He wrote out a prescription for medication that would confirm my future with PD. He said goodbye and said he'd see me in 3 months. And as I stood up, he said, don't believe everything you read about Parkinson's on the net. And that was it. No, what's going to happen in the future? No, oh, this is terrible. No support groups to go to, nothing. I didn't know anything about Parkinson's. I thought it was an old people's shaking disease that may just shake, go in a wheelchair and die. That wasn't a good thought at 50. I was on automatic pilot, and so I was so glad my sister Mandy was there to take me home. I got very sad, I felt very lonely, and then I got really angry because I hadn't finished my life yet. Something huge and uncontrollable was taking away my life choices. I had a degenerative, incurable neurological disease that I thought was going to take things away from me and then kill me. So I sunk into a bit of a depression. And then I told my family and my friends. I tried to be positive in front of them, and it was really hard because I didn't want them to worry about me, particularly my mum. And I had this terrible thought that I was glad my dad wasn't alive to see me suffer because it would have killed him. So then sorry, that makes me very emotional when I talk about my dad like that. So I decided to look up. I decided to find some inspirational quotes to help me. I was flicking through the quotes one day and I saw one by Michael J. Fox. This one is actually by Michael J. Fox. It says, "I don't have any choice whether or not I have Parkinson's, but surrounding that non-choice are a million other choices I can make." And that really stuck a note with me, and I decided to fight this damn thing and not let it ruin my life. But I needed a plan. How was I going to do it? Teacher brain kicked in. Learn about it. So I googled Parkinson's. The specialist was right, dumb move. There was so much information on there, and a lot of it was so scary, and then I found out years later that it's not true. So I needed a new plan. I rang up Parkinson's WA and asked for the nurse to come and visit me. That was a good choice. Heather was my earth angel. She was so knowledgeable about what was going on. But the best thing she told me was, you die with it, you don't die of it. You don't die of it, you die with it. Great news. Best news I've had in 2 years. It wasn't going to kill me. I decided I needed to learn everything I could about it. I wanted to go to every talk, every lecture, wanted to be part of every research project that I could be held up and get done. And I wanted to do it now. But I had a problem. I had so many thoughts buzzing around my head, and they, like me, are totally unorganised. The frustrated Virgo in me wanted organisation, but the creative free spirit wanted to do everything at once. My brain was exploding, so I decided to write a list. And I did what you do. I got a nice new exercise book. I decorated the front cover. I put stickers and dividers inside. I covered it in plastic. Yes, I'm a stationary nerd and a procrastinator. And I sat down to write my list. Only problem was I'd used up all my on time and I'd gone off and I couldn't hold the pen to write the list. So I'll just step out of my story for a minute and let you know what an off time and an on time are. The off is when your medications stop working, or it's not working very well, or it's run out. And that's really bad. A lot of people, it affects people differently in different ways. Mine comes out in bradykinesia. I go stiff as a board, my head can't move, my face is like a mask, I can't articulate, and no, I'm not off now, but I still can't articulate. And my hands and feet don't belong to me. They won't do what I want them to do. It's very debilitating. But the on time is when the meds are kicked in and are really good. Sometimes they're too good and I go crashing into walls, but you probably saw that at the beginning. But that's okay. And when I first started, I was taking medication 8 hourly and getting 7 hours of good on time in between. But because it's degenerative, I now take medication every 3 hours, which means in a typical day for me, from about 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, that's about 17 hours. I get 5 hours of really good time. And in that time I go like the clappers to get everything done I need to get done. But to get those 5 hours, I have to take 12 tablets a day and wear a 24-hour patch. I took my meds, kicked in, great, wrote my list. What was I going to put on my list? The first thing I needed to do was tell my grandkids what was going on, because they were 5, 6 and 8 and they were starting to worry about what was going on with me. I decided to get a book to read to them to start them off, as you do, but I couldn't find a book. The only book I found was Grandpa had Parkinson's, had shaky hands, went to hospital, had an operation, came home cured. Well, that's wrong. It's incurable. Why would you put that in a kid's book? So I did what teachers do and I made my own resource. I wrote a book. I wrote it from the perspective of a child telling kids what was going on with their nana. So I sat down with my grandkids and we started to think about it. It was an eye-opening experience and I can't talk about it without getting choked up. So one of my grandkids is going to come and give a little talk to you.
For as long as I can remember, we've gone to Nan's every school holidays. In the beginning, I remember chopped up fruit before going to sleep, visiting her classroom after hours and feeling like a renegade, going down to the duck pond with her and her helping us pre-make lunches for the school week ahead. Since her diagnosis, things like that haven't been as possible. She can still take care of us, but sometimes it's a little more us helping take care of her too. When I was little, I used to think my Nan had a superpower. In the mornings, we used to curl up in bed with her and she'd just tell us poems from memory, without even having to read the book. It was incredible. But when I was about 6, I noticed something strange was happening to her. Her hands started shaking when she was doing things, other than handshaking. And her thumb started twitching and she dropped things all the time. She stopped being able to play the piano and I could no longer rely on her pretty handwriting to label my school books with. She couldn't really smile properly anymore and it was funnier than usual watching her try to get up off the couch. When she couldn't put my hair in plaits anymore, I decided enough was enough. Me and my siblings questioned her. We had an interrogation. We were like, what's going on? Her and my dad sat us down and they told us that she had something called Parkinson's. My 6-year-old brain deduced that that meant she was going to die soon. I was too scared to ask her. The truth came out eventually, though. She was going to be fine. And she wanted us to help her write a book. Cool. A lot more weird things started happening, like her toes move around. She needed me to rub her feet all the time, which is weird change. And my brother started calling her our Bobble Head Nanna, which we thought would be a perfect name for the book. When we go on walks, she holds onto us to keep our balance, but it's kind of nice because it's like getting a hug whenever we walk together. My nan's house smells like paint and 1,000-year-old paper. She has pretty much every art supply you can think of, so when we go down, we can make anything we want. Homemade jewelry? Got it. Painting? Obviously. Drawing? Yeah, she just bought 8 million of the coolest pens you've ever seen. No big deal or anything. Sewing, sculpture, costumes, origami, fairy houses, jump, how high? There's paint on just about every surface in my nan's house. It's amazing. It's an inventive edifice, castle of creativity, holy temple of discounted art supplies, my nan's house. I'm really proud of my nan for writing a book and everything she's done. She is a force of nature. I honestly feel bad for this Parkinson's fella sometimes. He's no match for my nan. She's an inspiration to me and so many others. I love you, Nan.
Thank you, Dom. So grandkids taken care of. I decided I needed to research proven ways to slow down the progression of Parkinson's and for myself and other people and actually do them, stop procrastinating. I read that creative activity was very good at helping symptoms because the dopamine-based medication with the Parkinson's do something to the creative side of your brain and it lets off a high. That's a lot cheaper than drugs, but yes, yeah. So the first time I noticed a spike in my creativity was when I was writing poems at stupid o'clock in the morning. And I'd always wanted to paint pictures. I had them in my head and I couldn't put them on paper. Suddenly I could paint fat, long-legged birds and emus on colourful backgrounds. But I had to change the way I did things to suit my symptoms. So when I was off and needed to be painting, I would put paint on this hand that wasn't working and use it like this, like a paintbrush, and do the backgrounds. When I wanted to do the dots, I could only do the dots if I had American Idiot by Green Day blaring out on the speaker. It's got the best beat. I painted non-stop for months, and once I painted 42 paintings in 30 days. My kitchen table is covered with paint and paper. My chairs have morphed into multicoloured sculptures. My hairdresser plays what's next colour in Sue's hair when she washes it every week. And my hands look like a pro heart painting. I paint on canvases, I paint on paper, and anybody and anything that stands still long enough. I've got painting in every part of my house. But then I needed to get this message across to other people with Parkinson's, get them to get the buzz. So I formed a group called the Unsteady Hand Mob, which speaks for itself. And that was for the people with Parkinson's, but also people affected, their family and their friends, so that they could come along and join in the fun of our creative workshops. I don't call it art, I call it creative workshops, or they won't come. We have, on the first, third and fifth Thursday of every month, we have these workshops and lots of impromptu ones at my house. But the social aspect afterwards is as much important as the painting is. Then I read about Rocksteady boxing program in America. This was having great success in slowing down symptoms. So I looked around Mandurah, and after lots of knockbacks, I found someone who would help me run a class. So in November 2017, we opened our first class of boxing for Parkinson's with 3 people. But it quickly grew to 12, and we stayed like that until the COVID-enforced knockdown. I didn't want to stop when that happened, so I made my own gym in my backyard. I found one of those boxing things on the side of the road and set it up. And as soon as we're allowed to have more than one person exercising, I started a boxing program for everybody. And we have 7 or 8 every Tuesday morning. We box for an hour and talk for 2 hours. Once again, the socialisation is really important. The third thing on my list was to educate the community. It's the second most common neurological disease in the world, and yet the average man in the street doesn't know much about it. We've been the subject of hurtful comments and ignorant comments. I've been accused of being drunk, standing in the checkout trying to get my things when my hands aren't working. I've been yelled at for using a disabled parking bay because I'm not in a wheelchair. I've been really abused for using the disabled toilets. I remember one day I was at McDonald's and I walked through the door. I was having a particularly wobbly day and crashed straight into the wall. So I stood in the queue swaying, and a little girl I used to teach raced up to me, gave me the biggest hug. Sorry, this is quite emotional. Gave me the biggest hug, and just as I was about to say hello to her, the adult with her yelled across McDonald's, "Get away from that disgusting drunk lady." I was mortified. I've had friends who are not allowed into clubs and pubs or even onto buses because they thought to be drunk. So I take every opportunity to educate people about Parkinson's, because do you know in Australia 1 in 250 people have it? And when you hit 60, 1 in 100. So it's about 250, so you're fine, I've got it. April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and I do everything I can in April to spread the word, educate and raise funds. Everyone that comes to my sessions are totally amazed at the amount of hidden symptoms there are. It's sort of like a Parkinson's iceberg, I think. You can see the tremor, but there's 42 other symptoms hidden underneath. Then in 2018, I read a script of a play written by Sue Wiley from England. She was diagnosed just before her 50th birthday. And the best choice I've made so far is to produce that play. It was brilliant. It was a great educational tool, but it gave me another thing to think about: accept, adapt, adjust. I learned that to fight, before you can fight the fight, you have to accept that you've got it, and that's really hard for some people. And once you accept it, then you adapt the way you do things so you have a great life. And then you have to adjust the adaptations because you keep changing. So that's a brilliant thing to live by. And the last thing on my list was to help people indirectly affected by Parkinson's. That is the family and caregivers and other halves of the people with it. I know lots of people with PD, and their spouses often ask me questions I can't answer because I've got it and I'm single. I can't imagine what it's like for them to go watching their loved ones deteriorate. So I decided to start a luncheon club. So once a month we meet for lunch, and we've got 22 average people coming, and the partners are really pleased with it happening because they know they're not the only ones coping and not the only ones getting cross and not the only ones feeling useless and helpless when they watch their loved ones. It's really, really important that you remember that PD does not discriminate. It's not an old person shaking disease that kills you. I was in my early 40s when I started having symptoms, looking back on it. I've got friends who were diagnosed in their 30s and one who was diagnosed at 7. So, as I continue on this journey, I'm positive, motivated and happy, and never sure what Mr. P's got in store for me next. He's just a gift that keeps on giving. In conclusion, no matter what life throws at you, make sure you make good choices about what you do with your non-choice and make the world a better place. Remember, life is beautiful, and it's a good idea to get up in the morning because the alternative sucks. I choose to go on researching, educating and badgering people to come to my boxing, come to my art classes and come where I am just when I'm talking. I'd like to leave you with the last quote that really sums everything up. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Thank you.